Countdown? Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Santa Rita Union School Board meeting. I'd like to call Mr. Patel. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We can start with the roll call.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Present.
Ms. Cindy Lopez,
Present.
Ms. Alvariano,
I am here.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval,
Here.
Ms. Sarah Turner is not with us this evening.
Okay, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the board agenda?
I motion to approve the board agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion 4-0.
Okay, today on closed session, we have potential litigation, government section 54956, public employee performance evaluation, government code section 54957, 2.3, conference with labor negotiators, under government code section 54957.6. Is there any public comments regarding closed session items?
There are not.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the closed session?
So motioned.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Motion 4-0.
Yeah, yes, I'm gonna take this too.
Don't worry, I got plenty to talk about. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, you want to give us a countdown? Yeah, okay. Okay, we're going to reconvene back into open session. Nothing was voted on during closed session, so there's nothing to report on. We're going to move on to item 5.0, approval of consent agenda items 5.1 to 5.3. Can I please get a motion to approve?
So motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Kevin.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, item 6.1, is anybody here from SRTA or any comments submitted?
We do not.
Okay, CSEA.
No.
Okay, move on to superintendent's cabinet.
We could start with our Director of Engagement and School Climate, Dr. Summer Prather-Smith.
Thank you so much. I wanted to share that the board had requested or had discussed having quarterly kind of town hall meetings across our district. I was able to connect with Building Healthy Communities and plan for them to help facilitate those. So we will be doing them quarterly at at different sites. And what we had talked about in the planning of those, and I can share more around the key points, is we really wanted to be able to be there as participants and listeners and not the ones facilitating it, so that our community felt like they could have open and honest dialogue. And so we've been working the last couple weeks around kind of what the goals around those will be. I won't read you all of this, but what we came to was that our goals were around strengthening students, parents, and district engagement, elevating student and parent voice, increasing transparency by providing regular updates as well, building initial understanding of the use of the spectrum of family and community engagement, which is a tool they use to measure engagement, and educational equity. Fostering honest conversations by encouraging opening dialogue, advancing accountability by defining clear next steps, and elevating the overall process to the end of the year so that we can really come back and show successful growth in the targeted areas. They have a clear approach worked out on how that will be facilitated. So it'll start kind of with some guiding questions that will co-facilitate or co-create an agenda. Families will have, or participants will have, an opportunity to talk and share. They'll work in some small groups around targeted areas that are brought forward. And then we'll end each session with kind of like, this is something that we can have, that we can do before the next meeting. This is something that's ongoing. This is something that we need to research and come back to, just to give that open space for our families. So those will be starting at the end of September. We're working on scheduling all of the times, but we talked about like September, November, February, late April, May, kind of for each of those.
Do you know from BHE who'll be facilitating those?
Yeah, so she's still kind of finalizing it. It'll either be somebody directly from their team, or they work with some other organizations that do like town hall community organizing type stuff. So they're going to bring in an experienced facilitator to help coordinate that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I was curious who the
Yeah,
person was.
yeah. And I'll share this out. These are just kind of the whole big picture. And then the last thing I just have for you is just the schedule for our upcoming. Remember that ELOP and on top of our regular after school program is an additional 30 days in each year. So we're getting ready to start our first set of Saturday sessions, which previously we were funding out of Learning Recovery. We're now funding out of ELOP. That means that those are 9-hour days, because in order to use ELOP funding, it has to be 9 hours. So we're doing more of a traditional program in the morning till 12:30, and then right at school we'll come in and do 12:30 to 5:30 to give that full day of time for families on Saturday. So these are just kind of those dates. You can have those. The dates of those programs, as well as our summer program that will happen. And then you'll see on the back, it lays out each of those to show that we're at the requirement for the number of days that we need for that 214. And then the other part that's there is I got these ready for you, and this is already full, but I just want to tell our community we're working on getting more. So part of what we're doing as part of that Saturday session is free swim lessons. So we're funding swim lessons for our families at the Salinas Aquatic Center, used to be the municipal, the Salinas Aquatic Center. We booked for 50 slots. Dr. Katis opened it, and within 4 minutes, our 50 slots were booked. So we did save, we saved 10 slots to make sure that there was equity amongst sites. So we'll distribute those extra because we actually have 60 slots. We'll distribute those just to make sure that everybody has some equivalency in that. And we targeted 3rd through 5th grade. So we had heard from our community that swimming was one of those areas that they really wanted. So thank you to the Salinas Aquatic Center. We've been kind of negotiating with them the last couple months, because what it does by opening these slots for them is it closes down for birthday parties. Sorry, anybody who wanted to have a birthday party during that time, so that we can focus on just serving our students. So we're really excited and hoping that we can expand it again after we do this first set. Thank you.
Well, I'm definitely really excited about the town halls. So that's kind of aligned. So that's cool. Very cool.
You know, I love the partnership with Better Healthy Communities. You know, they've done outstanding work in Salinas, and the idea of having a swimming program. I mean, that's one of the greatest fears that our students and, you know, minority-based community has with the lack of access. So I'm so happy that we're able to provide that too. So thank you for the great work.
Did you have anything, or are you just going to hold?
I have no comments.
Okay. Becky's going to take us through our student data workshop later. Is there anything else you would like to add?
There's not.
Okay. So we can go on to the board.
Okay, Mr. Neil Patel,
I'm good.
Cindy Lopez.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Okay, Ms. Snell.
The only thing I have is that I attended the TKK orientation,
Okay.
and that was a lot of parents there and a lot of excited kids. The team that this is at McKinnon. So the team that is working the TKK did a fabulous job at presentation. So kudos to them. That's
Okay,
it.
and thank you for attending too. Yeah, nothing to report on my end. Dr. Alderman.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to switch gears and get into our student data workshop portion. We've had a great start to the school year. Still working in partnership with the city of Salinas regarding the roundabout and pre-planning for when they're going to do some additional lane closures. And so Dr. Prather Smith, Miss Alicia, myself, Victor, we're going to be on with them tomorrow to talk about what we need in order to get our buses into McKinnon when they do the planned additional closures ahead of their starting the next phase around October, just so that we know exactly how we're going to run our bus routes and be able to swing into McKinnon and deliver our students, or use different streets to deliver our students who go to New Republic in that area that may be impacted, as well as our students who attend GV and JG and catch a bus over there in that area that is on the hard end side of McKinnon Street. And so keeping that collaboration going, Victor was able to come in and draw a schematic of what he needs in order to turn a bus. And so we're going to talk that through with them tomorrow and what options we may have for us in advance.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the update. Any public comments regarding non-agenda items or agenda items?
We have no public comments.
Next item is 8.1, a public hearing regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials. So what is it? 6:22. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing.
Thank you. And we did post the resolution regarding our adopted instructional materials at each school site, as well as on the website for review. We've received no comments. These are the same instructional materials that we've been using for at least the last 3 years, some of them more than that. So there's nothing really new to our community here.
Okay, so at this time, 6:22, I'd like to close. Unless there's any comments from the board? No? Here, we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to move on to 9.1, which is the action item of the approval of resolution resolution 25.08.15, sufficiency of instructional materials, 2025 to 2026.
I was going to motion to approve.
Okay. Can I get a
Motion to
second?
approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I like it.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, item 9.2, approval of CSBA manual maintenance June 2025 policy updates.
Thank you. Ms. Turner was able to review our quarterly packet that came in over the summer for our CSBA manual maintenance. And she's bringing that forward with a recommendation for the board to approve.
Make it a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, Captain.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, 10 is our board workshop. 10.1 is on student data.
Okay.
It's one side, so it's one side I have to try. Maneuver it. Then I can move if I feel like I need to
Thank you.
point something in the most. It's easier. All right. So for our academic data. Is this on? No. Yes. There. Oh. Awesome. I love that. Okay, now where am I pointing this to move it? We're going to focus on. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. Oh, yay. Okay. Let me go back. So we're really going to focus on strengths and opportunities as we go through this data. Emphasizing, of course, that Santa Rita is the district where we all learn and grow. We are going to see some celebrations and also see that we still have a long ways to go. So looking first at our recent CASP data, this is the data from the spring of 2025. And it is not published yet, so it's preliminary data. But with our data analyst, we're able to pull those raw reports out of Tom's to be able to put this report together, and it will be representative of what we're going to see once that dashboard data is published. So this first page shows overall district-wide achievement in 2 layers. So the outer layer with the green is from 23-24, so our spring 24 data. The inner circle with blue is our current 2025 spring data. So we can see that there's growth in both ELA and math, although it's small and we still have a ways to go. That is a growth that we can celebrate. We're moving in the right direction.
Sorry, before we move forward, can you
Sure.
explain the chart again? Sorry, it was quick. So the blue, okay, is meeting the standard and then.
We want our students to be in the blue and dark blue.
Okay,
Those are met standard. Sorry, the key got cut off in order for the circles to keep their shape. But the dark blue is standard exceeded. The lighter blue is standard met. And then the light gray is standard nearly met. And the dark gray is standard not met.
okay,
Yeah. Correct.
okay, the outer circle. And the inner circle is the current year.
Our current data.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so I see. Okay, so.
Yeah, thank you for asking that.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so continuing with those same color representations on the next page. This is a data, again, district-wide, but broken down by subgroup. So we have our socioeconomically disadvantaged, SED is the first group where we see growth in the blue compared to the green from last year. And this is ELA, I should point out. Students with disabilities, we see a slight decline. So that's definitely an area for growth for us as a district. Moving down to English learners, there is an increase in standard met, but it's very small. So again, an area for growth for us. White students are one of our subgroups that declined. Hispanic students gained. And all students as a cohort made gains, as we saw on the first slide. And that's for ELA. When we move to the next page, we'll see that same graph, but for our math assessment in CASP. And in math, all of our student groups gained at least slightly, with the exception of students with disabilities and English learners, again, our two focus subgroups. This chart, instead of breaking it down by subgroup, is breaking the data down by grade level, again, across the entire district, but starting with third grade and moving through eighth, because these are the grade levels that do take the assessment. So in looking at this today with our EL specialists, they all pointed out that these are different cohorts of students. It's the same grade level, but comparing 2 years of that grade level. And so one of them said, well, that group of students, I can see why we had that either much growth or that decline in that grade. So later, what we'll do is look at cohorts and how they progressed from like how they did in 6th grade and 7th grade, et cetera.
So for example, like the third grade is, for example, the bottom level, right, which would be the 2024 performance.
Hmm.
The 2025, we'd be looking at them as fourth graders, right? So they would be the next level.
This is third grade 2 years in a row. So same grade level, but two groups of students. So third graders in 23-24, and then third graders in 24-25.
Oh,
Yes, then at the next row,
Yeah, that's
it's
what I meant.
those, yes, then it's those fourth graders.
yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And we have another chart that's going to lay that out really clearly
Okay.
for us. So this is ELA, and we see gains with the exceptions of two grade levels, 4th and 7th. This is that same graph by grade level, but with math. And similarly, there are gains in all grade levels except 4th and 7th, which is where the teachers were saying, oh, well, it's a completely different cohort of students. And we know those kiddos. So kids who struggled a little bit more from the beginning. But areas definitely for us to look at and
Yeah.
continue
So
working with it.
I know, shall wait till the end. Sorry, I asked my questions at the end.
You sure?
Well, okay, well, so I know we're doing a lot of different things. It's just, I mean, it's really saddening, I'm sure, when you guys saw the data too, that like on the 8th graders, like 70% of our students, are in the one
Mhm.
area there,
Yeah,
and
it is. It's very concerning.
it's,
So this year, we know that math is an area where we're not performing. I mean, ELA is not fantastic either, but math is worse. So we have some things happening this year to address that. Working with CSUMB, middle school math teachers have had the opportunity to have some very specific PD on some teaching strategies to help students own more of the thinking in math. And that's continuing this year. Additionally, with our Eureka math curriculum, we have a success partner who is scheduled to come visit each school site one day this fall and do a site walk with the principal, assistant principal, academic coach, and me to look at, are we implementing the curriculum the way it's intended so that we're passing responsibility away from the teacher and to the students to develop their math mindset?
yeah, because I do see there, I mean, there was a huge, well, I guess it's not the same cohort. And I'm thinking
No.
about. I guess that's always tough to, because
You,
visually I want to see it a certain way, and then obviously it's, yeah, I forget
Right.
that it's not the same. So like, for example, the 20, so let me see, 24 would be the bottom. You said there's another chart that compares?
Yes.
Okay, I'll wait for that chart.
I'll keep moving. That's coming up
Yeah.
next. So I have it for ELA first. So you can see here the cohort. It's the third graders in 24 and then fourth graders in 25. And then fourth graders 24, fifth graders 25. And so when we look at it this way, we're seeing that students, those cohorts of students are increasing their proficiency each year.
Mr. Patel, I'm sorry, did you have a?
No, I concur. I mean, that's a big outlier. That's a huge outlier.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
And I guess,
Hey, I 70%,
Mhm.
couple that with the next correlation of 21%, you're talking 81% of eighth graders in our district.
Yeah, and that was the 70% is from 23-24. We have that now, that level 1 to 57% this last spring. So we're working towards improvement. It's not as fast as we want it to be.
No, I'm glad to see the numbers went up, or I don't have the data on that, but yeah, no, I'm sorry, they did go up. But yeah, that's 70% for that 1 year. That's a
Mhm.
major outlier.
Mhm.
yeah, no, and I just see now that you do the court, I mean, there's obviously, it's still huge, but there is definitely improvements that are showing, because I mean, even from 1 year it was 54 to 42. I mean, that's 12 percentage points. I mean, that's a huge number of,
I mean,
but it's still high, yeah.
there is some recovery there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I see the dark gray shrinking
Mhm.
and I see the blues in combination
Increasing, yeah.
increasing.
Yeah.
Um,
It just the fact that, which I'm sure you guys saw too, the size of the gray
it's
is
the
like,
size of the gray that's daunting.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
just like, and I guess the biggest thing, which I know we're doing, but just as a reminder to parents, like, because a lot of parents, when they come say, well, okay, they're low. What are you guys doing to fix
Right.
You know.
It's our responsibility. This is within our expertise. This is
Yeah.
what we are being paid to do, literally, as an education system. So we're implementing some things differently than we have in the past. And I think the beginning of that is what's led us to start moving in this right direction. And so I'm eager to get through this year and see how much more we can
Yeah.
grow because of what we're putting in place.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm totally eager to see what made that big difference, to go from 70% back down to 57, whatever's working, we need to emphasize,
Mhm.
And I think a big piece of this is we know that our truancy rate has also greatly declined. So students are coming to school, which that's the number one, right? We can only teach them if they're here.
Mhm.
We had great gains last year. We're anticipating more gains this year. So I think, number one is we have to have them here. If they're here, we can teach them, but kids have to be here. And so, parents have listened and they've responded. So I think that's a big
We've
piece.
also more than doubled our students who are staying for after-school support
Mhm.
this year.
Yeah.
So there are things that we will
layers.
have an eye on to track and see what kind of impact they're making. So
Yeah, is it, just kind of thinking out loud, possible as we go forward with these data presentations for the following years to maybe do like a 3-year, 4-year,
Mhm.
just so that way we can see like,
Yeah, we definitely can.
because then I think that'll help also, like, in speaking to community
Mhm.
folks, like, hey, doesn't look good new, but when we started,
Yes.
Yeah.
we're here. So keep that in
Hey.
perspective, that we're at least year after year we are making progress towards that.
Also, considering our socioeconomic database that we pull for our students from, it would be helpful to see like districts with similar socioeconomics and do a comparative,
Yeah.
then I think the public will have a better understanding of how well we're doing with our population base compared to other population bases that are similar. And then we can compare, rather than just looking at our own data.
Yeah. Well, as long as we're making improvements. So that's,
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely see improvements.
because
I
everybody else
definitely
is
see
doing bad. I
improvement.
don't want to be compared to people who are doing bad.
Yeah.
No, but it helps to know, if another district with similar, socioeconomic population base is doing a little better, then we can go find out what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's always good to see, what's out there and what's working. And, I'm always looking for better ideas,
Definitely.
So this is our ELA data for the cohort view. This is the math data for the cohort view. And here it's a different picture. We talked about how we had a couple of grade levels that looked like they had declined. And it looks different in this perspective when we're comparing the same cohort of students. So in third to fourth, it's approximately the same for math, although the bottom gray shrunk a little bit. From fourth grade to fifth grade, our students declined.
Interesting.
Mhm. From 5th to 6th, there was slight growth. 6th to 7th, there's some growth. But then 7th to 8th, again, we see a decline. So that's something that our principals will be digging into, and academic coaches more with all of this data, with their school site data and their teams, to really think about, what things do they think were different in 23-24 than 24-25? What differences did they have in the students? What differences did they have in how they were teaching, to really consider what caused, especially where we see declines.
Yeah, the town halls, I think hopefully will be good if they are well attended, because then if parents come out and they say, hey, we're struggling, and I know there gets a lot of stuff sent out through social media. I wonder, I guess I'll have to think about it closer. Just make sure we get the word out. I really want people, because that means if people need help or students need help, I want parents to know, like, hey, we're a district that'll help you. We just need
And
to
that's
tell us.
That's part of the benefit of partnering with like Centro and partnering with Building Healthy Communities, is that getting the word out is beyond us as well, right? So it'll be us, but it's also those groups that are working on community engagement, and so it builds that as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of
because
what
I'm
we're
thinking, like, I don't know how we can do this, even if you give us a list of addresses. I don't mind going door to door. It's like,
Yeah.
show up to the meeting, let us know
And-
how we can improve your student
Yeah.
experience.
And I think that an important piece in like our conversation, my conversation with parents and my surveying of parents and stuff, is overall our parents are very, very happy with what's happening in our district, right? That's one of the challenges, and it's part of the challenge around, it's a challenge, but it's a positive, right? That families aren't coming out sometimes, is that when we talk to them, they're very happy. The indicator on like our California Healthy Kids survey is like 98%. Like parents are really happy. What we need to do is really move parents forward in understanding how we partner to address some of these issues as well, right? So even if you don't have a concern, come work with us. Let's brainstorm together, because you know your child best, and we're experts in teaching, and that's when together we can make these changes. And so that's a big piece of what we'll be pushing the town hall. Like, it's not just if you have a complaint, it's not just if you have something that's great, it's about together is how we make change here.
Yeah, pretty much like when your student leaves our district, we want to walk away to be successful the next step they go. So
Okay. So we've talked about strengths and opportunities along the way. We know we have a lot of growth to make in both ELA and math. And we know we have some focus subgroups with our students with disabilities, with our English learner students, and also with a couple of cohorts of students that we want to keep an eye on. Did you want to add anything?
Right. No, I apologize. I'm running a little bit out of time, but I was just kind of forward looking at the iReady data, and before I leave, I just wanted to see what is the correlation, because it looks like iReady seems to project a little different image than what CAS was showing.
Let me fast forward to that to show
I
you,
apologize to the board.
and then I'll go back. Wait, is it? So for ELA, it looks like there's a closer alignment than there is for math. This is, and you can see it in these wheels. I found this chart to be really interesting, and this is where I wanted to walk over. I'll just carry the mic with me. But when I look at ELA, students who were 3 or more grade levels below on iReady, 9 of them met standard on CASP. Here we have students who, let me see, exceeded standard. Some of them were 1 grade level below. 34 were showing as early on grade level. So it's not perfect, but what we look at as our bigger indicators, not met and 3 or more grade levels below, that makes a lot of sense. Mid-grade level or higher, we're having these groups of students who are meeting either standard met or standard exceeded on the SBAC.
Becky, does that information on there include the fact that our first, second graders take iReady? Or is that?
Yeah, this is looking at the 3rd through 8th graders for the correlation. Hmm.
So my question would be, is iReady, and this is a general question, is iReady a good assessment tool in the interim before CASP to guide instruction? Is it the best we have? Is it something we need to look at, or? Because I mean, I do see some correlation,
Mhm.
but in other areas I see
Yeah.
it's not very correlated, so.
This year, it is a little bit less correlated than it was last year. Last year, it was like 90% correlated. So I'm not sure why it's not as high this year. But I think going back to here,
Mhm.
we're going to need to know, like for math, that these, what is it? The early on grade level and mid or above. The mid or above is guaranteeing that they're meeting either a 3 or 4. But that early on grade level is not a good indicator for us. As opposed to in ELA, the majority of students who scored either early on or mid or above in iReady made the 3 or 4 in CASP. That's closer to what we saw for both subjects last year.
I mean, if it's the best we have, it's the best we have, you know, but I do see some amount of growth over time, so that we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, so I'll take us back to
Sorry about that.
iReady.
It's good as well.
Okay, so going back to look at that iReady data. These are 2-year matched placements again. So kindergartners in 24, spring of 24, and then first graders, spring of 25. In kindergarten, of course, students cannot be 3 or more grade levels behind, and they don't start out 1 grade level behind. So this is where that gap begins to be discovered. And then we see students growing from first to second with the green, but that 1 or 2 below is starting to rise. And it's interesting to me how the green grows and the red also grows and kind of squeezes out the middle.
So just for example, on the 2024, the kinder, that first year yellow, that means the students that are entering already, they're kind of behind on
They're
where they should
starting below grade level.
at 53%. Holy
Yes.
smoke.
Hmm.
And so as Becky was sharing, when you take iReady as a kinder, they're not really predicting 3 grade levels below.
Yeah.
They're just, it's for your on kinder. But by the end, they are able to say you're at least, they're coming
2
in
below.
without, when you think of your kinder, they're coming out without those prerequisite kinder skills.
Mhm.
And so that's where you see that initial gap. And then looking at between, like, it's the same group of students, right? Beck, so you go when they were kinder and then when they were first, and then
These
next
are
group is
first
when
to
they were
second.
first and when they were 2nd.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why the work, I mean, I always think like I would volunteer for first 5 if I was retired, I think, because that early learning is so important. Parents looking at books with their children, even if they can't read and just talk about the pictures, developing vocabulary, exposing to music and rhythm and dancing, all of those things activate the child's brain. Children starting kindergarten come in with a huge gap in vocabulary, just general vocabulary, and that's really where the gap begins.
So I guess where TK is so important
Yes.
in preschool, yeah.
Okay, and similarly with the math, I think we see a similar pattern, although the green doesn't really grow in a way that we want it to grow. They're growing each year from 1 year to the next.
The academic language for math was
Mhm.
is they might be doing well in ELA, but then when they do math, I mean, there's so much vocabulary.
It's technical vocabulary in math. Mhm.
excuses, but I just feel that that might be one factor.
Absolutely. That's something the teachers and I were talking about today as we looked at this. Mhm. This is median percent progress to iReady growth goals. And so the green bands are representative of 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. The blue bands for stretch growth indicate growing more than 1 year's growth in 1 year's time, which is what we need for our students who are behind grade level. If they only achieve one grade level at a time, they'll just continue to be that far behind. So what this shows is if I lined up 100 students, student number 50 in the middle scored 100% or got to 100% of their typical growth and 54% of their stretch growth. So there are students who did more than that above and students who did less than that below. That is the middle child. And then the same for math. And this is showing that representation for ELA by grade level. We can see that students are making their typical growth for the most part. It's the stretch growth that we really need to start pushing more for students to close those gaps.
So the percentage, like for example, where it says like 113, 130, what do those represent again? You're saying? 130%.
113%. So if I am the middle child out of a row of 100, because that's an easy number, I'm number 50, I did 113% of my typical growth. I exceeded typical. And on stretch growth, I met the 56%. So then there's like 49 kids below me, 48 kids above me.
Okay.
Mhm. And this is that same chart for math. And then this breakdown is that typical and stretch growth, but by subgroup. It looks like English learners in ELA, their graphs look about the same as our other subgroups, but students with disabilities are fewer for meeting that growth. And in math, you can see students with disabilities again stand out. Okay. I think we've talked about these. Definitely opportunity to push stretch growth and understanding that the math is less correlated than the ELA. So for these comparisons, we already looked at this first and second slide. So I'll keep moving.
I didn't understand that other slide when you were going with Ms. Patel.
This one?
Yeah, I didn't understand this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me walk back over.
Okay.
It's easiest for me if I can touch it.
Sure.
So these rows are indicating the levels on SBAC of exceeded standard, met standard, nearly met, or not met. And these columns are representing their iReady placement at the end of the year.
Okay.
So in ELA, 465 students scored 3 or more grade levels below, and 70 and not met standard. 74 of them nearly met standard, but showed on iReady as 3 or more grade levels below. 9 of these who scored 3 or more grade levels below, they met standard on SBAC.
Okay. So the iReady is the bottom one,
Yes.
and SBAC is one on the left.
Yes. Uh-huh. So when I was showing this to the EL specialists, I believe it was Miss Tripp who said, "Oh, I know who I could probably name who those 9 are." I said, "Oh, middle schoolers who are not taking iReady seriously, but have the capacity." And then if we look
I see.
up here, we have 111 students who exceeded standard, 150 students who met standard, and these are students who were in the mid grade level or higher on their iReady. So it's interesting when you look at these middle ones
Yeah.
because I'm looking at, okay, these students on iReady are 2 or more grade levels below. 167 of them did not meet standard. 72 nearly met it. 24 did meet it. And yet they're scoring 2 or more grade levels below here.
See, and the next one's even bigger because
And
the
here.
108
Mhm.
that they met it, and even though they're one below.
One below.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought this was a really interesting way to look at the data and think about who these students are. And it's an indicator. I mean, I think sometimes when students are not taking iReady seriously, there can be lots of factors.
I did that in high school a couple times. I said, "Is this going to impact my grades or college?" They
Yeah.
said, "Nope." I said, "Okay." I
Uh-huh.
was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
now I feel bad for who got the result."
So, so yeah, it's an interesting perspective of our students.
And it also speaks to the fact that oftentimes an assessment is a snapshot of a day, right?
Right.
So could have been a bad morning. You had a bad day there. SBAC comes 6 months later, 7 months later, and life feels better, right? And so
Mhm. I think too, like on diagnostic 1, if students don't take that seriously, they can be misplaced because they do my path learning on that a few times a week. And that's at their level to catch them up. That's where the growth comes from for a typical or stretch. And if I am having a bad couple days, I don't do my best on iReady, I'm placed well below where I'm actually achieving. The lessons that I'm being presented with are pretty boring because I know all of it. So then I'm not as motivated to work through it. So we looked at these correlations. When we see a correlation of 70% or higher, that's considered scientifically as highly correlated. And so we can see this in ELA, we're showing as highly correlated, which we saw in that big wheel chart first thing. In math, the correlation is a little bit less, particularly in 7th and 8th grade.
So correlation between the test scores on the
Between the iReady scores and the CASP scores, which is what Mr. Patel was asking about.
Thank you.
These are students who met or exceeded standard on CASP, and they had reached the levels of mid-grade level or higher on iReady. And this is the same look, but by grade level. So we can see that students who did meet or exceed standard are typically the students who are mid-grade level or higher on iReady. So looking at our English learners, who are one of our focus groups, they also take that summative LPAC each spring. And similar to the first wheel, this wheel shows the green is last school year in 2024, and the blue, I'm sorry, 2 years ago now because we're in the new year. It's the 23-24 LPAC, and the blue indicates last spring in 2025. What I notice is that if I combine the two greens or I combine the two blues, it's about the same. It's not better, not worse. If I break it down, the students who are scoring 4s declined or decreased, and the number for 3s increased. The grays also didn't have much change. So this is something I looked at with our EL specialists today to kind of think through what things are working for us and what things may we need to adjust. One of the things that they're asking for is for us to look at potentially a new curriculum for our newcomers. Because what we have with English 3D is language launch, and it gives them a couple days of like alphabet and numbers and then jumps into kind of assuming they can already read in English, which is not the case. The lessons are very high level, and we need something to bridge that gap to give them everyday vocabulary, let alone academic vocabulary, before we can jump to that.
And how does that process work? Like as far as getting new curriculum? Now that
So-
you've identified that.
We talked through some of the things that we've heard about. So we're going to reach out to some of our colleagues in other districts that we know are using some different things, bring those together to our next EL specialist meeting next month and talk about them. And then potentially bring a recommendation to Curriculum Council and let Curriculum Council see the materials to see what their opinion is.
Okay.
This breaks down the data by grade level in the center of the circle, and also by the English domain, whether that's listening, speaking, reading, or writing. And we can see that reading is definitely our weakest area. Writing and writing and speaking, if you combine the blues, they're about the same, but the level 4s in there are fewer in writing. And then listening is probably our second highest. You can see also in 3rd grade, there's a dip in the scores. The test changes and gets much more difficult in 3rd grade. So ideally, we would see students growing through kindergarten, 1st, 2nd. It would be lovely if they grew in 3rd, but it's less likely because the test changes so much. But then you see again the progression of growth through 5th grade. Then these students move to middle school and we see that dip again. Looking at the summative LPAC results by school, I'm going to walk over again. So this begins with Gavilan View. The top row is 2025, the bottom row is 2024. And it breaks it down by beginning, somewhat developed, moderately developed, or well developed, which are levels 1, 2, 3, 4. This blue column combines the moderately and well developed here. So in 2025 at GV, there were 39% who scored a 3 or 4, compared to in 2024, it was 45%. And at JG, 57% in 2025 compared to 49%, and so forth. So again, as I've said all evening, English learners are a big focus area for us.
And English learners also include newcomers. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that can be a pretty big mixture of who's coming to that school site.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. And students do receive at least 30 minutes of designated ELD daily if they are English learners, and that's provided to them at their level. So at most schools where there are many English learners, those students are leveling out amongst classes. So say in 2nd grade at Santa Rita, they're saying all the 2nd graders who are 1s and maybe lower 2s are going to this teacher, 2s, maybe some 3s going to this teacher, etc., so that they're getting it at the level that they need for that 30 minutes a day. And additionally, ELD strategies are also being used throughout the entire day with their teacher when they're also with their English speaking peers.
How does that get identified as far as like the 30 minutes versus 20 versus 45 versus an hour?
The state doesn't give us exact guidance. 30 minutes is typical across this county, at least probably across California. In middle school, it's sometimes a whole period, so that's when it would be more. But it's typically a 30-minute block.
Okay. And has that been ever, I don't know,
Mm.
discussed like, what if we do 45 or something different?
We could look at that. It would mean shaving time off of something else.
Sure. And of course, yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely something that is within our realm of possibility.
I don't know how effective. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
How,
Yeah, I hear you.
wondering. Yeah.
hmm Okay, these are numbers of students who were reclassified as fluent English proficient. The light blue line is last year, 24-25, and the darker blue line is the previous year, 23-24. So by school site, you can see that with the exception of Santa Rita, all schools reclassified more English learners to RFEPs, fluent English speakers, in this previous year.
So for like John Gutierrez, does that mean there was less 1 year, correct? Or
There were less in 23-24, kind of down on that bottom dark blue line. And then their line shoots up because they had a large number of students who were reclassified this previous
and
year.
also depends how many students qualify to be reclassified, right?
Correct.
'Cause obviously
Yeah,
that
they
makes-
have to meet all of the
yeah.
requirements.
So some
Mhm.
years it could be more students or less. As a reminder, you guys do like a ceremony, right, when they get reclassified, or was that for something else? You guys did that, or
It's by site. So the sites do,
Okay.
yeah, a
Whatever
reclassification.
celebration they do.
okay.
Yeah, presentation with families and students.
Okay, and then I think I only have one slide here for our science test. Only fifth graders and eighth graders take the state science test. And this is fifth and eighth grade combined. And you can see that the blue that indicates 2025 has outpaced the green from the prior year. So we made some growth in science. The dark gray also shrunk, so that's a good sign. We definitely want that blue to increase. Okay. Recently, our cabinet level leadership met with our Parsec data analyst and success partner to talk about clarity for our goals for the coming year. And we know in our LCAP we have 10 broad goals. And if we focus on every bit of that, we're not going to accomplish anything. We'll be too scattered. So we took the most important things that we know about our data and about our LCAP goals, and we wrote 3 focus goals for us for the year. So this is our first focus goal, which is not about the academic data, but we know that without this piece of belonging and being a part of a school culture that welcomes you and embraces you, without our restorative practices, we're not going to get to the academics. So this is our first goal, is to focus on the belonging book, which adds on to our restorative practices toolbox. Our second goal is related to literacy and math and high quality tier 1 instruction and a multi-tiered system of support that identifies students when they're falling behind early and provides immediate interventions to try and catch them before they fall too far. Our last goal is around inclusion practices for our students with disabilities and making sure that they have access to grade level standards and peers, as well as integrated ELD and differentiated instruction to make sure that we are focused on our English learners and their needs. And that is the end of my 40-page presentation. What reflections and or questions do you have?
No, I good. I'm glad that I think that we're hitting points and then there's points of pivot, right? One thing you were mentioning about like the English learning curriculum and how, hey, this is not working, so we have it. So that's really important. Um, and also I know in the past, I'm not sure this is happening or not, we're for our site principals, we had discussed having like coaches for them. Do we still do that, or was that um
We don't, but instead what we're doing this year is Becky mentioned that we had our partners in from Parsec And so we first did like a cabinet level workshop to set these goals. And it was great because it was us, Melanie, Krisha, Claudia, everybody came out. And what we realized is we need to focus our goals on our site administrative team as well, because that's our sphere of close influence. And so then the work that we have with our weekly principal leader meeting, because it's principals and assistant principals coming in as well, is to remind ourselves at the start of each meeting what our roles are, that we are going to ask the hard questions. We work as allies for them, but also agitators, to be like, but what's the next thing? To very professionally and kindly, like to agitate, right? And so for them, it's to look at the data and dig down and interrogate and be like, so what is the reason for that? Why would that be, right? And ask those questions. So we're doing more of an internal structure where we're bringing in and partnering like in our group sessions instead. And so Becky brought this idea in, and then, with our team surrounding in as we're transitioning, especially from learning walks into the instructional rounds process, that it makes natural partnerships for our level with the site level, because then they're going in and they're leading that work with their leadership teams at their school site, which again, Becky is up leveling this year with the teacher leader academies that she's doing for the folks who are on the school site's leadership team. So that's different. And so we're trying it with a more layered approach with what is each group of people's most direct sphere of influence that you have over. And so that's new this year.
Okay, so
And,
that's new. Okay. Yeah, no, because I know we have had a conversation in the past where, I mean, the site principals essentially are what are going to make the school site, right? It's how vital it is to support them and obviously get that. So I mean, we're obviously trying this approach, but just always, like if they, and I'm sure you guys do, just thinking out loud more than anything is what do you need to succeed essentially? And if there's struggles, it's like we're here to support. Where do you need adjustment? Where do you need extra coaching? Because definitely I mean, obviously they're the first line, for our students and the teachers there and kind of stuff. So
Coaching more officially Rebecca because she is our newest principal, and I asked her if that would help her, and she said yes. So we meet weekly to talk through.
yeah, and if principals watching, we're here to support you. So obviously if you ever need or assistance, I mean, obviously we're here.
I
And
think
so
we've
then-
also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
once we have like our learning walks, some of our schools are transitioning to doing the instructional rounds, and some of them are sticking with the learning walks for now. And that helps with that natural progression. But being able to share with you so that you can come in and you can kind of see that work at the different levels with the principals and the teachers, because they're ultimately the beneficiaries of doing those processes as it leads into the direct impact that they have in the classroom on their students. So.
I was just going to add, I think that I can really see the work that went in with the coaches and with us. And I was laughing because today I met with our mental health team, and they were saying that in a lot of times with their meetings, before we were getting a lot of calls, right? And now they said that, a lot of times the administrator would say something when it comes to school climate specifically, like, they'll say like, okay, what would summer do? So they're always like, we're going to do a WWSD, right? Like and so there's like that coaching from outside and that coaching from internal has really empowered our site leaders to take ownership and to be able to come and say like, okay, what would they do? And what does that mean here? And how does it work? And so they're reaching out for support, but they're taking ownership in it. And that's what we want, right? They own that space and that campus. And so I think that coaching that they had really made them feel like they could get out there and do it with the backing, knowing like, okay, what would the team do if they were here with me? And if they need us, we're there. So yeah.
And as far as and I'm sure even if we discuss this, forgive me if you remind me, with teachers, do we do annual surveys to see where they're at and what are they needing and kind of stuff?
Multiple times
Okay,
a year,
appreciate-
multiple times a
okay.
year. In fact, we just,
They quit asking.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we just sent out because going back to ELOP, but teachers' classrooms are being used for after school program in many cases, and there is an impact in that. And so in kind of asking like, what do you need? Like this is an impact. they talked about like having things that they could have out for after school kids that maybe doesn't disrupt all their stuff. So we were able to offer every teacher $100. So every teacher whose classroom is being used gets to put together an Amazon card of $100. And so those are materials that can be used in after school, but they can use it in their classroom, just kind of as a way of saying like, we recognize like your stuff is important and you want to have those pieces. And so, you know, I think that we try to hear them and hear what those needs are and what are going to make some of these things more applicable for them or make them able to apply them. So
Okay, yeah, because I mean,
don't forget to
that's-
give me your Amazon card.
That's the next line of defense, obviously, is the teachers who are the rock stars that make the students happen. So definitely want to make sure they're taken care of as well.
The PLC meetings, are very valuable, and if they can, because I remember that we did the cross-level articulation, and that helped a lot, because that way I did, fourth grade, so there was third grade, and then there was fifth grade teachers that got together, and then you did that articulation of what, and I think that should be happening. That absolutely should be happening, because that way it carries over to the next grade of what everybody, to have some kind of consistency as to how they're going, you know, in all the aspects of academic and academic language for math, because those math scores,
Yeah.
you know, I was a little disappointed in them, but you figure, you know, the kids in math, they see numbers and all, but when they take a test and they say, oh, I can't remember, of some kind of academic language that they don't know, how are they going to answer? They won't, they're gonna guess. They're gonna guess. So I just feel that the language, academic language for that particular subject is very, very important. You know, because that's where it's gonna get to them. Maybe not all of them, but you would think that a majority of the kids, if they knew, I don't like division. Okay, what does division mean, you know? So when they see it in a test, they're not gonna know what the heck is going on. So,
Yeah.
you know, we just need to kind of work.
We're also hopeful. I know you mentioned it earlier, the TK enrollment. I mean, that was a wonderful problem to have, right? All right, at the start of the school year. The larger number of students who are with us for a full day of transitional kindergarten now, where we can work on those pre-kinder skills, that because we're working on them, we have a little more surety of what the student is getting, right? When they enter our kinder, because transitional kinder is really about getting students ready for kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know, our partners at MCOE really, they had spent the day with our TK teachers in the morning and then came to our principals session to kind of go over what they had worked on. Talked about changing a mindset where people are thinking like it's like a kinder year one and then you're going to kinder year two. It's not, it's different. You're really working on the kinder readiness piece as its own thing. And as the state has improved the definition and the programming of that and getting people to understand, transitional kindergarten is really meant to be that preschool year for our students. And so the expansion of it to include all 4-year-olds that are eligible and get the class sizes and the ratio is really meant to push that forward in a school setting so that we're passing on more students that are ready for entering kindergarten. So this is like our first big year. That's why I bring it up, because our numbers grew so much. And then each year building that programming. But also, like Becky, setting up the work and getting our TK team offsite to do that that PD, digging into like workshopping what they're doing so that they're a cohesive unit and that they're not just thought of as like, oh, just squeeze them in there with kindergarten, because they know that they're unique in what they offer. So
So when I see these, I also always go like, oh my God, because you see the numbers, it's alarming. But then I always like to think like Sarah. I always think of Sarah because she always says there's, they're educators, they know it. You guys, the teachers work with your students on a daily basis. This is a lot of them state tests, right? And so it's like Summer said, like a bad day, whatnot. It's still alarming, not trying to make any excuses or anything like that. But I like well, I mean, you guys already brought up great things that we're going to work on, but what I'm seeing, and we know, and you mentioned it, Becky, over and over tonight, the two major groups that we really, really need to make sure that what is it that we need to change? Because obviously change needs to happen because we see this repetitive is with our students with disabilities and our English learners that of course we're going to see there that they need the growth, but we need to find something to change that too, because it's these are the students that need the most help, and these are the students that I feel that are being impacted the most. So
And I think I had shared last time that one of the areas we're really proud of is our special education students participating in after-school program. At McKinnon, for example, where our Mod Severe class is, 70% of our Mod Severe students are staying after school. So we're working to get a Mod Severe teacher, if anybody's interested, to support us with that. But we have a very large number of our special education students who are staying in after-school programming, which we know is going to have a benefit overall for them. And so I'm excited to see this year what that impact is, just because it is such a large number in our after-school programs.
Yeah, I also wanted to share that, as Melissa mentioned, 4 of our schools are ready to be part of our pilot year for instructional rounds. And all 6 of our schools are developing a problem of practice following the process in the instructional rounds framework, which is working with teachers to identify a site-specific problem using their data that they want to try and focus on, and really framing the observations of the data in a way that is about what adult actions are linked to these scores. Because as the adults, as the teachers, the educators, the support staff, this is our responsibility. So if it's not working for our students, what do we need to change to make it work better for our students?
Wow, I know where we were 5 years ago. Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation. Our next regular school board meeting is September 10th, 2025. Is there any suggested future board items? I'm sorry.
Just want to point out that our next board meeting on the 10th is actually going to be over at Santa Rita Elementary School. We'll notify our community in advance, but we're going to hold our board meeting in the Family Resource Center there at Santa Rita Elementary.
Okay, perfect. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn our meeting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion 3-0.
Okay. Have a nice evening, everyone.